Hi, everybody. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Steve. Thank you for inviting Interface to this forum. I think it's an honor. We are a company who invented this idea of cutting the carpet into square, into tiles, and we've grown since 1973 when we were founded to $1 billion company, and since 1994 we've been trying really hard to be sustainable, and then we have had many failures and some successes, and I'd like to share some of those things. Please, if you are tweeting, if you can copy me on my Twitter, it's at Ramon Arratia, all together in lowercase, and then please post challenging questions and let's have an honest conversation about the challenges that we're facing, because we're not short of challenges. This is how we started our sustainability journey. In 1994, some of the architects, we sell mainly through architects and designers, and they started to question, what do you do for the environment? And we didn't have an answer. This was a company based in Georgia, almost in Alabama, and these guys, they say, we obey the law. This was in the 90s. And we did a meeting to discuss what was our sustainability strategy, and we decided that we had to do something big. And our founder, Ray Anderson, said, he realized that one day people like him would go to jail. Why? Because society's expectations would have changed, and manufacturing stuff to fill the landfills of the world wouldn't be acceptable anymore. So he said, we need to move from that take, make, waste mentality. And you know how the Americans are, yeah? Woo, yeah, let's go for it. So they came up with this. I don't know how an American lawyer could approve that, knowing that we're going to screw, obviously, on the ambition. They were so naive to say that we will eliminate our negative impact by 2020. And since then, this has been the mission of the company, to show the world that this was possible. And obviously, it is impossible. Now, how do you do it? How do the Europeans set up targets? We say, what is technically feasible? 20%, let's go for 15. This is how the politicians set up targets. And this is mainly what happens in companies, how the targets are set up. Things that are not challenging enough to redesign your whole manufacturing process, your whole product. And this naive question has pushed us into redesigning several of the products, of the processes. And it's been a really, really hard question, because it's never enough. You never have enough in order to achieve that goal. Now, we're going to have some issues explaining in 4 years' time or 5 years' time how we achieve that. But this is more or less how we are going to look at it. First of all, we look at degree of influence. And the first scope is your manufacturing, is your company. So we will need to get there 95% in terms of the impact reductions. Why? Because we have the highest influence. Of course, it's not the biggest impact. The biggest impact is outside the company, but it's our biggest influence. The second is about how do we influence the products and the supply chain, which is where most of the impact is embedded in our raw materials. And we'll need to have decent reductions as well across all our supply chain. And then the third is how you change the paradigm in the market where you are. How do you change customers' decisions? How do you change the market? How do you, through innovations, how do you influence that? And so this is our way of responding to that Mission Zero. Now, what have we done here in Europe, in Interface in Europe? These are the metrics that we got in December compared to 1996. It is possible today to decrease your carbon emissions by 98%, having renewable energy 95%. Still, that 5% is mainly the heating needs in the factory that we have in Northern Ireland. because biogas is not a big thing still in the UK, despite the renewable heat incentive, and we're still having issues to find a cheaper alternative to gas. In the next 2 years, we hope to solve that. But obviously, this has been possible through energy efficiencies of 54%. If you do it the other way around, if you start with renewables, it's extremely expensive when there is so much quick wins that you can see in terms of energy efficiencies. So this is how we have achieved it, mostly energy efficiencies. What are the projects? You know all that. You've been writing, you've been doing a lot of research on these type of projects. But hot parts, insulation, paybacks of 2 months, 3 months. Elimination of some of the boilers that when you really think you don't need them. Boilers that they were in the factory that were from 1968, switch to more efficient boilers. Sometimes you decrease temperatures just by changing to materials that need lower temperatures to be processed hot. So chemistry becomes the solution for physics. Valves that keep the heat on the processes, obviously restricting people to play around with thermostats, optimizing the humidity when you cure materials, air curtains for doors, etc. Reusing of cold air on the top of the machines. There are many, many ways. Some of those projects paid back in less than 6 months. Normally, we approve projects without blinking if it is payback less than 2 years. And then if it is a longer payback, then, okay, let's look at it. Let's look at it. Maybe there are other reasons, but let's also have a look at those. Compressed air, we waste compressed air like any factory in the world. People, sometimes they were cleaning with compressed air, just moving the dirt around. This is the leakages in compressed air. For me, that's another key one. But you guys know a lot about that. We will move into more the soft way of how we approached it. Well, the thing we did was the sense of urgency. We said, let's not wait until 2020. Let's just do it now and give to the engineers a big challenge. Sometimes you have to phrase sustainability in a different way to an engineer than to a salesperson, obviously. An engineer likes to play with machines. They like a budget and a machine to play with and achieve something. So you frame sustainability into a technical challenge, which is what they like. So that's what we did. We framed that into a technical challenge. Let's really get to zero non-renewable energy to cut radically GHG. And then we also give them voice. In many cases, engineers are down in the factory and they don't have PR exposure. It's like geeks like me, sustainability geeks and the executives and sustainability and the communications people. The people who go there and take the awards and do this presentation, so the idea was to give them a voice and reward them, putting them at the center. And sometimes some engineers don't like that exposure and others loved it. And it was another way of rewarding them with something. Also, we accepted that the quick wins have some life, but the last 20%, especially the last 10% of the reductions will cost more. And we were prepared to pay that. And it was a lot of communication, internal and external. Now, you will tell me, yeah, very nice, but this is meaningless. And I'll tell you why. Because mostly sustainability at your manufacturing plant is not the biggest impact, doing sustainability only in your manufacturing plant. Most of the impacts are either at the customer side, if you are manufacturing of a machine or a vacuum cleaner or a car or something that uses energy, or embodied in the raw materials, if you manufacture cement, carpet, or wood, or whatever. And that's why I think that we need a paradigm shift in the way we see sustainable manufacturing. to move from the corporate sustainability, so looking at just the factory, which is sometimes what I call it a beauty contest. There is a lot of awards and CSR reports and certifications. For me, this is mostly useless, and we need to move to measure the entire environmental impact of products, what I call product sustainability, to do life cycle assessment of the product. So that's the first paradigm we need to make. Then the other paradigm we need to shift is what I call the services. There's the radical sustainability, which is, let's not only look at the LCA of a car, let's look at the LCA of the transport system of a city. Let's not look at the LCA of the cement. Let's look at the LCA of the whole building. So by looking at the systems, maybe you come up with innovations, with ways of doing things in a radical manner. So I'll talk a little bit about this idea of product sustainability. Many companies, have you heard any of these CEOs saying, sustainability is embedded in our DNA? Yeah? How many times we have heard that? It's cheap, it's easy. Why? Because everybody can claim that at company level. Oh, it's embedded in our values. Yes, how do you measure that? Sustainability, if you really want to claim that, sustainability has to be embedded in the DNA of a company, which is the products. Products is what the whole R&D, all the innovations, all the marketing, all the sales, everything and all the service, everything is to do with products. So tell me, what do you sell? And is that sustainable? Is that carbon free? Is that 100% recycled? What is that? So sustainability really is about products. And obviously, one of the key elements of tools is life cycle assessment. Most of our impact is on the raw materials. And that's the same for, as I said before, for a cement or for something made from metal. If you look at the machine, it would be on the use and maintenance. So you have two patterns of let's say, manufactured goods. Either you have the impact in the supply chain or you have the impact at the customer side. Both are a design, a product designed issue. And that's what I think gets interesting. When you frame sustainability as a product designed issue and you redesign your whole product. And then it's not about reducing just the impacts of your factory. It's crafting a factory that can come up with different products so that in its entire whole life they have different systems. So this is more or less the impacts of carpet. Most of the impact is in just one single raw material. Then you have some other impacts elsewhere. And what we've been doing is looking at this magic metric. We call it CO2 per square meter is the magic metric. And most of the social cost of the impacts in our industry is related to CO2. So that's why we just don't bother to measure the rest of the impacts. We measure mainly CO2. And product design or product redesign is huge in terms of reducing those impacts. So this is the first one is a carpet from wool nylon, like a roll carpet. The other ones are just normal, the nylon's roll carpets. And then we have a carpet with, if you lower the yarn, then you have less impact. If you make it with 100% recycled nylon, you have less impact. If you reduce it further to really flat carpet, you have further. And then if you change nylon for something like polyprop and you make polypropylene to perform as nylon, then you cut dramatically the impacts. So using materials that seemingly are inferior in their properties, but getting those materials to perform as more complex materials, which normally they have more embodied carbon, this is key for me. Sometimes we over-design and we use materials just in case. But sometimes some materials can, if the construction of the material or certain reinforcements, you can upgrade those materials to just make the function. So obviously we had three things: how to use less materials, use more recycled materials, and find alternative materials. We've been doing that. The inventors of nylon in 1990 told us that DuPont, that it was impossible to recycle yarn. Now we have 450 colorways, and we're going to switch all the colors to 100% recycled nylon. We're also investigating bio-based, and bio-based have a lot of issues, and we prefer recycled always. Recycle is our first option, but we know that we won't have enough recycled sources, so we need to top up with some bio-based. So we're experimenting with some bio-based yarns, obviously non-food competing with low arable land use. And again, what we said before about upgrading materials. But also thinking about the scavengers, others' waste. We're now taking the PVB, which is in between the layers of glass. When you look at the windscreen of a car or building glass, is PVB. And the glass recycling is a profitable operation, but this was a material that wasn't recycled. So we're taking that PVB, that waste PVB, and having a process to use it as a substitute of the latex that go into our carpet. We're partnering with this model of recycling, but with socioeconomic impacts of looking at how can we recover fishing nets. And we're doing that in the Philippines. We have started in Africa recovering fishing nets, which are made of nylon, and then depolymerizing and repolymerizing that nylon to make our yarn from those. So this idea of scavenging waste and creating positive social impact by doing that, I think it is something interesting when you look at other sectors. Some customers pay for sustainability, and this is key for me. You need to, it cannot be just a manufacturing decision. It has to be informed by the market. So for us, where do you put your sustainability X is important. In which basket do you put? So we've said, okay, in our market, the Germans and the Swedish pay a premium for products that are more sustainable, for products that are free of certain chemicals. Let's put those sustainable products into those markets. That's why you see those products are gray. Why? Because they like it in Germany and Sweden. So we started from those products in those markets. This idea, this product, Biosphere, was our highest growth product for Interface, highest growth introduction. I'll talk a little bit on the radical. It's not sometimes we need just to get you out of the, let's say, of the manufacturing thinking, and sometimes the biggest gains are where the highest the scope is. So looking at the service, questioning what is the purpose that product is serving. And then you think about the service redesign, and you think about the competition between different products and different sectors. A carpet is not competing with carpet only. A carpet is competing with the ceiling in providing acoustics, with the architect designing the acoustics of this place. There are a car is competing with the train, but it's also competing with walking, it's also competing with redesign of cities. So we need to think about what is the function and who are the real competitors. And then when you want to grow, you can have growth in adjacent markets because there is always a competition. Some people try to come to your incumbent market to cannibalize your product. And then you can apply that thinking also to jump to adjacent markets to cannibalize other people's products. For me, this is the big sustainability gain. Whoever comes up with a substitute of oil or a substitute of gas or steel, and there are many substitutes. For example, insulation materials in buildings are cannibalizing the gas. And there's a huge war between those two sectors in lobbying for, one is in lobbying for strong standards for building insulation. So this idea of different sectors competing against each other and coming up and jumping to adjacent markets for me is absolutely key. For example, we came up with a way of installing the carpet without glue. That gives you less VOCs, less environmental impact, and obviously it takes us to a new market because the glue, we didn't sell it ourselves. What we're doing is cannibalizing the market of those glue manufacturers. So this is a very stupid example of how you can jump from one market to another one. We have these salespeople that also sell the glue as well as the carpet. So we have that capability. So think about what is your core competence, and as a company, how you can expand to an adjacent market based on your core competence. Is engineering in the North Sea, the ancillary industry for the oil now is becoming the ancillary industry for offshore. Why? Because the core competence is operating in the sea. So think about what is your core competence and how you can expand to a new nascent industry. What are we cannibalizing here? What carpet is cannibalizing here? That's the BBC office. What you don't see there? The walls. You don't see the walls. And you say, but it's so stupid question. The carpet, and the walls. Well, if you look at what's happening, is that some sectors, some entrants are saying we need to challenge the way of making inflexible offices so that all they are fixed, and we know that we're going to have every organization every 6 months, and marketing is going to depend on operations and the other way around, and then sales depends on this. So the offices are changing all the time, so we need to create flexible spaces. What we're doing is that we say to architects and designers, why don't you spend your money in more expensive carpet, but gives you the design capabilities so you can create spaces without walls. And then at the same time, these guys that manufacture those interior features that gives you privacy, but they are flexible, they're doing the same. So between all of us, we're creating a new paradigm of the flexible office. And this is how paradigms get created. It's not some PhDs doing some research. These paradigms are by trial and error, by going to different forums and different fairs, and one company have a new trend and the other product, and you see what's going on, and then there is a nascent industry coming with a new paradigm. These are how those paradigms happen. We'll talk also a little bit on recycling, taking back old carpet. So we're doing this reuse of carpet tiles in Wales, for example, or in Germany. And now we have a process where we recycled our old tiles. So we separate the backing into the new backing and the yarn into new yarn. What we're doing now is we used to have very defined specs for our engineering, for our lines. And now what we're doing is, let's do the opposite. Let's invest a little bit more on equipment, but it's equipment that could be flexible to handle different materials with different properties. Otherwise, we're constrained into our incumbent legacy materials. So what we're doing now is investing in, for example, in a new backing line that will give us the possibility to use 3 or 4 bio-based materials. So it's very, very flexible. And then we can play as well on the prices of those raw materials, which obviously fluctuate a lot. But then we can play and have flexibility of supply of different raw materials, just not being constrained to one single thing. I think I'll finish here around with the idea of portfolio management. Every company have products which are more sustainable and products which are less sustainable. So the thing is, how can you convince your customers to move from the products which are less sustainable to the products that are higher? And how can you come up, obviously, with R&D, with products that have less environmental impact? But managing the portfolio is absolutely key. because the government and customers are going to question, why do you have those products that they use so much energy? Why do you have, and you will have to phase them out eventually. So it's better to start thinking with R&D on those things. So I really think that in a few years' time, we're going to assist to companies being questioned about their portfolio. Think about the supermarket. They're not going to be able to say, okay, yes, I sell this, but I sell this. No. They're going to be questioned, why do you sell this as well? So portfolio management is absolutely critical, and I think it's something we need to raise more and we need to accelerate. Because it cannot be that companies make a couple of good things, they shout a lot about these good things, and then they do business as usual. Thank you. I think we have time for some questions. I'm not sure, Peter. We have? Yeah? Thank you.